I'm the current sitting chair of the Central Beaverton Neighborhood Association Committee, and that's why I'm here. So we'll just go down through the rest of us and tell us who you are and why you're here tonight. So I will just call you out since everybody is in different orders on everybody else's panelists. So Franziska?
Hi, my name is Franziska. I'm the Public Involvement Coordinator with the City of Beaverton, and I'm the staff liaison to this lovely NAC.
Thank you. Oh, and if you are a neighborhood association committee member or board member or officer, please state that as well. So, Jaspreet.
Hi everyone, my name is Jaspreet Chahal. I work with Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District. I am subbing in tonight for my coworker, Leah Biado-Luis, who is the district's liaison for this NAC. And my NAC is Denny Woodford, which happens to be close by home. And thanks for the opportunity for joining you all tonight.
Excellent. We heard from Officer Pickar, so Jonathan?
Hello, I'm Jonathan Todd-Kourlas, a board member on Central Beaverton, and I am the Central Beaverton representative for the Beaverton Committee for Community Involvement.
Okay, you also sound like a spooky robot tonight, and let me remind you that Halloween was last night, or 2 nights ago, pardon me. So, good to know. All right, Kevin?
Hey everybody, I'm Kevin Teater. I am now I sound like a spooky robot with a voice. I'm the executive director for the Beaverton Downtown Association, and I'm a downtown resident as well, and a Central Beaverton NAC board member. So nice to see you all tonight. Thanks for coming.
Amanda?
Yes, that's my first name. Was that for me?
Oh, it is for our secretary, Amanda Clark.
Gotcha.
I'm Amanda too.
Those are the best names right there. It means worthy of love.
Right? I'm Amanda Clark. I'm the recorder for the Central Beaverton NAC and also the community engagement manager for the Beaverton Civic Theater.
Fantastic. Leah?
Hi, I'm Leah Biado-Luis, and I work for the Beaverton School District as the Safe Routes to School Coordinator.
Excellent. And then for our non-video attendees, if you wouldn't mind just briefly introducing yourself, starting with Francis Miller. You are now free to talk, but you are currently muted on your end. Let's see if we can.
Tom, was that for me or the people that we can't see their faces?
So this is for the people for whom we can't see their faces. Okay, yeah, absolutely. You're the next on the agenda item. But let's just see if well, maybe Francis Miller, if you're on a computer or app, you might need to unmute yourself. If you are calling in, then I believe it's *6. Is that correct?
Yes, it is *6 to mute or unmute. We may just need to come back.
We can come back to, so now Rachel Phillip, you are now talking permitted if you want to introduce yourself, but you will also need to unmute. There you go.
Hi, yeah, I'm a Central Beaverton resident, just calling in to see what's going on in our neighborhood.
Yes, fantastic. Welcome back. All right. If you can hear me, Francis. Oh, and then someone who just came in, John Richter. Would you mind introducing yourself and just let us know why you're here? But you may need to unmute yourself.
I'm just part of the community, and I'm curious what happens on a meeting.
Fantastic. Welcome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Francis, if you're still having trouble unmuting yourself, there is a chat. You can always just type in hi or hello or whatever in the chat if that's easier. And if you just want to remain silent, then that's fine too. So we will go ahead and get on to our first agenda item, which is the Beaverton Police Department report. So I will turn this back over to Officer Pickar.
Well, it's nice meeting all of you or hearing about all of you. I haven't done a NAC meeting in many, many years. And in the olden days, we did them in person, but because of the new pandemic, of course, it's this Zoom style, which I'm not a big fan of. I'd much rather be able to address you in person so you can kind of get set eyes on one of your officers who's been with the police department for a lengthy amount of time. I'm the senior officer on patrol at this point. And I love what I do. I love working in the city. Thank you to all those who voted for that new public safety building. I love it. It is so much nicer than the old building. So thank you to all of you and your neighbors, anybody that took the time to vote for that. That's a huge morale boost, I have to say. I strongly feel that Beaverton Police is the best agency in the state. And I've done ride-alongs in other states with other agencies and police departments throughout my career. And I have not seen the police work that I see on a day-to-day basis in Beaverton. So I think we're all basically lucky to be living here, working here, et cetera, a combination of both. Any questions for me about perspective, experience, run of the day, run of the mill type questions about law enforcement in Beaverton, or any recent calls that maybe you've heard of, rumors, et cetera, social media questions you might have stemming from what Beaverton Police is doing?
And just a quick note for anybody in the audience, if you you can use the Q&A function to ask a question, or if you would like to audibly ask a question, just use the raise hand feature and then Tom will know to call on you.
Thank you, Franziska. So do any of our attendees or any of the board have any questions for Officer Pickar?
Yeah,
Go ahead,
Yes,
Kevin.
sir.
Yeah. So in downtown Beaverton, there's understandably been quite a decrease in the amount of foot traffic and the amount of eyes on the street kind of watching over things together as community members. So recently, with a lot of the businesses adding outdoor seating and things like that, there are concerns that people might have an easier time stealing or tampering with some of these outdoor business services and supplies. And I know that some of the businesses have asked if BPD could have a little bit more of a presence in downtown or just check things out more occasionally. I know it's hard with it getting darker, longer, or having it be darker longer, and with BPD not being able to be there all the time, like you can't see everything. But if you have any tips, or if the BPD in general has any tips for reducing any sort of criminal opportunity, I'm sure the businesses would be interested in hearing more about that.
I appreciate that question, and I'm not happy about it being dark at 5 o'clock until January now. I'm not happy about that at all. But keep in mind that regardless of what fire pandemic sweeps through our region, that we're 24/7, 365, and I can't think of another business that is, that I know of, and we can't do this from home. I can do this meeting from an office, but I had just come back from another meeting with a gal who's missing her brother across the United States. And I took a courtesy report for Chicago PD because they kept giving her the runaround. So she lives in our city and will take care of our folks. I'd say for businesses downtown, any video surveillance you have will be key for prosecution of a theft, criminal mischief type situation. We need evidence. If we have video evidence, it's always better than an in-person witness, because in-person witnesses don't necessarily come as the most accurate or dependable witnesses because of just human error, perspective, what they saw, heard, or perceived at the time something was happening and maybe they weren't fully attending to, but the surveillance from video cameras cannot be beat. And I know that it's much more affordable than it had been even 5 years ago, where you can have that teddy bear video camera, babysitter, nanny cam type thing that's you can buy online or from TV. That's very inexpensive, and even low tech people like myself can operate that, or at least have access on my work phone or home phone if you're checking your home, to be able to call in anything suspicious that they see on that. We've had businesses from out of state who are monitoring something that's going on in Beaverton via surveillance, and then they dispatch us or request police respond, even though they're not in person but what they can see on their phone or surveillance is concerning enough. They say they're willing to press charges. We go, we investigate, we can find suspects and then hold them accountable thanks to the business having eyes on via remote surveillance. So it's not just for Zoom meetings, but I certainly recommend any type of video surveillance that you can implement at your business.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Just to take the opportunity, I know that I think Officer Sutton had occasionally touched on crime statistics, and in the both Central Beaverton neighborhood and then the greater region. Since we have you here, I know he had previously mentioned that as things were locked down, unfortunately, domestic violence calls and incidents increased, and I was just wondering if they've been still increasing over the past few months, or if you've seen a plateau, or hopefully a drop in incidents.
It's interesting that you asked that, and I appreciate that question. I was asked that by our PIO several months ago because different news stations were asking our public information officer about that, and I know some news stations are reporting that. And my answer, even though I have a steady diet of domestic violence, regardless of the pandemic or weather situation, that it didn't necessarily increase, but the proportion of calls for each day increased because we don't have the same crashes nor school calls for service that we were getting that kept us very, very busy, especially during the daytime hours and commuting times. So with the schools being closed, the calls for service involving child abuse, neglect, etc., sex abuse cases involving kiddos, that has dramatically dropped, and that is not because it's not happening. We're just missing it right now because the schools are closed. So that's one really, really bad spot of this whole thing. But the domestic violence calls increased proportionately just because the other types of calls dropped, because the business and the types of calls have changed based on people being homebound or quarantined or on lockdown. So it appears the DV calls have increased, but really other calls have decreased. And so it sounds like there's more DV calls every day. And keep in mind that we have DV calls on every single shift, and we run 4 shifts a day, usually 10 hours each, 24/7. So it's a nonstop machine that's going on to take on these calls. I'd say our #1 calls recently definitely deal with the homeless and mentally ill. And with the mentally ill, you have the really devastating combination of mental health plus drug abuse issues. And so that we see certainly as a huge drain of energy and time from law enforcement. Even though we have, and I'm not sure if you're all aware of this, but there's actually an MHRT or mental health response team in Washington County. There might be 2 of them, but they're primarily riding with a mental health professional with a deputy that is CIT trained or crisis intervention trained, as most Beaverton officers are as well. We're all CIT trained. But they ride in tandem and then respond to calls throughout the county where an MHRT unit might be most helpful, but we do not have enough MHRT units specifically to help out with calls in Beaverton because they're so badly needed throughout Washington County. And their first and primary responsibility as Washington County citizens, even though Beaverton, of course, is within Washington County. We don't have our very own combination of MHRT, so we use theirs when we can. But that is the big stretch of police services. So when I hear that there are demands, requests, etc., for changing police work and how we do business, I would not personally or professionally dispute that that needs to come off our plate, because we are not psychologists, psychiatrists, nor mental health professionals. We actually wear many, many hats. Basically social work, marital counseling, babysitting, and then plus the crime investigation, life coaching that goes on, etc. Crime investigation and apprehension and prosecution, helping out with prosecution within Washington County. But the mental health, drug issues take an incredible amount of manpower, and any calls involving somebody that might be under the influence, whether it's a mental health crisis and or drug use or overdose, that is multiple units on every call like that. And so you're looking at 4 shifts a day, which overlap each other by maybe a half hour or an hour. And I'm sorry, not just overlap, but that's our overlap from, say, graveyard to day shift or day shift to swing shift. But otherwise, we probably have 3 or 4 hour overlap between a variety of shifts. But many officers are needed for each one of those calls. And then you take half the shift, no matter what shift it is, in just for that one call, which may take 10 minutes to a couple hours. It's a huge drain on resources out here. Just to give you some insight in what I'm seeing out here, that I do not disagree. There needs to be some things off the police officers' plates, and that would be one of them. That is more social services and medically directed and needs that kind of response. And we are not the #1 best option. I would even say that myself, and I've certainly been able to talk folks out of trees, off roofs, out of bedrooms, out of locked bathrooms, etc., without having to use other force. But we all have different styles out here, and sometimes there's already been a threat against somebody else or ourselves, which mandates a different reaction. So there's a lot of different scenarios that we're juggling all the time to try and keep the folks that are in crisis safe and then the community around them safe. But it's constant, and it's 24/7 that we're dealing with those types of scenarios.
Thank you very much for that, for your candor on all those topics, as well as the elucidation of the way those domestic violence statistics are reported. It's another, example of how statistics can look like they say one thing, but they really say something else. So fantastic. Are there other panelists or attendee questions for Officer Pickar?
I just wanted to thank Officer Pickar. I've been associated with the city either as an employee or a volunteer for 10 years, and I've learned so much from you and some of the services that the BPD coordinates and provides just from listening to you tonight. So thank you for taking the time to share everything that you did. It was very illuminative.
I appreciate that. Thank you for the feedback. I would add one more thing that I've learned just in September. That is one positive thing as a result of the pandemic, was that being able to get a restraining order is actually completely, potentially accomplished online. You do not have to come in person to court. I know court can be very stressful, hard to park, hard to take care of kiddos, hard to pull yourself away from school, at-home learning, job, etc. And so there is a guide and file system that is under the Washington County Circuit Court webpage for filing for protective orders online. And I believe it's only in English at this point, but it actually walks you through the entire petition for a restraining order. Just a restraining order. There's a variety of different protective orders, but I'm speaking just of restraining orders that can be done completely online, no cost, self-explanatory. In fact, it guides you. There's an interview portion that guides so that you can file that restraining order online, submit it, and potentially appear instead of in person on your phone with the judge in the same day in the afternoon that your petition is filed for. Just in case, you can throw that out there to community resources or folks or churches or other organizations that you belong to. It's hard to put all these different little details out because things are constantly evolving in how we approach, handle, manage these types of crisis, but restraining orders, guide and file system online. And that's one good thing that's come about for efficiency for folks that really are homebound or can't afford to leave for a variety of reasons to go file paperwork and then spend hours at the courthouse, which is what it used to be prior to COVID. Any other questions on anything that I brought up? I have no problem trying to answer that.
Great. Well, I think at this time we might give you back the rest of your shift. This has been I really appreciate the kind of impromptu presentation on your side of the department that we've gotten. And as always, when members of the different members of the BPD come in to see us, other than Officer Sutton, if there's ever a time when you are looking for additional community engagement or projects that you have that the neighborhood associations can help out, we would love to have you and to work out how that can happen. So
I appreciate that, Tom, and thank you
absolutely.
Thank you for being another outlet so I can put some of these little tidbits of information out, because I know that it kind of spreads like wildfire, and I want good things and good news to spread like that. So I hope you all take care of yourself and stay healthy and safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it gives me an idea. We might invite you back for a more extensive presentation on some of the other either existing programs or the other things just for your unit. When we can resume our in-person meetings, I think it would be great.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to, especially in person. I'd much rather see all your smiling faces. Thank you.
Fantastic.
You guys-
Thank you, Officer.
Thank you.
Excellent. Moving on then to the THPRD report with Jaspreet.
Well, that one's going to be hard to follow, but I'm going to do my best. So we have a number of items for your update today. We have a couple of openings on our budget committee, which we're recruiting for currently. Applications are accepted apply by November 9th, and applications can be accessed through our website. Moving on, we've got a few spots available in our out of school program. This is being offered out of Cedar Hills and Conestoga. Spots are still available. And the recently announced Beaverton School District CARES Act, CARES funds can be used for tuition as well. Preschool programs are available. They're currently full, but staff are working. We are accepting applications for a wait list that will help us determine if and when to expand the program. A couple of trails updates for you. We've got the Bethany Creek Trail is now open, as well as the Rock Creek and West Side Trails to Northwest Springville. THPRD and Clean Water Services are working on a stream enhancement and bridge replacement at Fano Creek Greenway. One exciting update for this NAC is that we have an off-leash dog space that's up and coming at Ridgewood Park, which falls under within this NAC. And we've got, I think the postcards have been mailed out to 1,000 homes, and we're requesting feedback from November 4th through 20th. And November 14th is there's a dog themed event as well. What I'll do is I'll copy the community programs manager's contact info into the chat box. So if there are any specific questions, I'd do my best to answer them here, but if you have any follow-up questions from community members, or if you happen to think of anything else after the meeting, please feel free to reach out to Keith Watson. Finally, we've got some volunteer updates. We have, over the past few months, the district's done some garden cleaning parties. So these are, again, great opportunities for anyone looking to either volunteer outdoors or help out with socially distanced and safely outdoors, getting back out there. You may have heard about Talking Walls updates. So, and the Sunset Park was really successful. And we've got, on November 15th, there'll be another set of Talking Walls that will be installed at the Greenway Park. And this one is being coordinated in participation with NAIA, the Native American Youth and Family Center. We've got some maintenance updates. Staff are working on clearing debris from roofs for winterizing, roofs, gutters, downspouts, and so on. We've got tree management. So with hot, dry summers and recent windstorms, staff are paying extra attention to tree and health hazards. So there's some extra time in recent weeks that they're inspecting trees in natural areas so they don't become wildfire hazards. Some sewer update for in the Cedar Mill sewer project. And lastly, we've got financial aid program applications are still being accepted. So anyone who can't afford typical program fees, household members whose income falls below the federal free meal guidelines can receive, each member of the household can receive up to $200 per person annually, and funds can be used can be transferred within the same household as well. We're also looking to exploring the study, a feasibility study for building trail bridge on West Side, and that public involvement process is underway. And the district will study the practicality of constructing this bridge. And we've got a project page set up, and I can drop that link in the chat. Finally, we've got Adult Volleyball League has started. So the Athletic Center has Adult Volleyball League that consists of over 40 teams that play through from Monday through Thursday evenings. And some aquatics update. Water fitness has started at Conestoga and Aquatics, and Conestoga and Aquatic Center, and you can sign up through the reservation system, which is online, because we're not accepting any drop-in visits. I know that was a lot of information, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer, or at least direct you to the appropriate person for that information.
Just a quick note to our to Jaspreet and Leah, if you want to add something to the chat. I only say this because I forget to do it all the time. There's a little drop down that says all panelists and attendees. If you want the attendees to be able to see, you know, email addresses or websites or what have you, just make sure to click that. I
Awesome.
always forget to.
Perfect. So I see that Amanda's dropped in the chat. Could you also email a copy of the report to? Yes, I can do that. Thank you. So you can enter that information into the minutes. And we have tons of other events and opportunities that are ongoing as well. So all of that information will be available, if not now, on the website in the very near future.
Excellent. Are there any questions for Jaspreet? So I have, could you remind me the name of the park that they're doing the new dog area in?
Right, that's Ridgewood Park.
Ridgewood Park, okay. Is it going to be similar to what's been implemented in Schiffler?
I believe so, but I could be, I wouldn't presume to speak confidently about it. I would still check in with Keith Watson, who is the lead on this work.
Sure, wasn't sure about, I'm sure there will be other, if it hasn't been implemented yet, I think they came actually by to do a presentation about the Schiffler park before that was implemented. So we may be seeing them something more formal. But actually, while I'm on that, we walk by the Schiffler Park dog area regularly, but we haven't really heard anything back about usage or whatnot. Are there any issues or positive or negative feedbacks from the community that you've gotten about the Schiffler dog area?
I will check. I'll fold that question for Keith. So I know there was a big public engagement process that was done for that specific dog park because there was a lot of interest in there. So I will ask Keith that question. Thank you for that. That's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't get the opportunity to use it because we've got it's hard to get our dogs to play nicely with others, but it's nice to see that opportunity because I know there just hadn't been any other outdoor, public dog areas accessible in the Beaverton. Actually, even in Washington County, I think the closest one was either Gabriel Park over in Garden Home, or then you had to go to Hillsborough otherwise. So it's really great to see these that the community is accepting this. So
yeah, and there's clearly an interest there. So I think staff have identified, and then once we did. I think there were a few instances of fenced dog runs, which were hugely successful last year. So we're hoping to repeat that success across the city as well. So is Ridgewood going to be closer to you?
There are very few. I don't think that there's a park that could be closer to Schiffler than where I live. So yeah, fantastic.
Cool.
Excellent.
So,
are there other questions for Jaspreet or THPRD from attendees or panelists? Okay, thank you very much. And,
thank you.
Tell Lulu that we missed her.
I will do that. Thank
Excellent.
you.
And I believe now moving to Jonathan for BCCI.
Okay, hopefully I don't sound like a scary robot. I switched mics.
It was really
Maybe I
cool.
still do.
No, you're fine.
Not a whole lot. I just a couple things I want to let you guys know about. Just a heads up, Reach, the affordable housing developer, gave a presentation. They're the ones building the Mary Ann in downtown. I just wanted to let you know that they've hired a consultant to kind of do like a racial equity lens on future projects and make that more of a thing as moving forward. So that's, and they're interested in building more in Beaverton, so that's good. They're doing that. Kate and her city charter, not city charter, the city council update. They've gotten applications for an interim city manager and they'll be interviewing shortly. They're still working on structural things for the new charter. I don't know, Amanda probably knows this, but her matching grant got approved. And Highland had one approved for a shred event, which BCCI kind of recommended, or the Matching Grants Committee recommended that it's an event that other NACs might be interested in, because I guess it's very easy to do. It's apparently a need in the community. So if we wanted to do one, it's easily social distance. You can do a matching grant, so it wouldn't really cost a lot. And I guess people like it, and it would involve our community. And Highland would be a source of input if we wanted to put that on. And the voters forum happened, so if you didn't watch it, it's still on YouTube. We don't know how many people watched on TV, because that's obviously impossible to track really, but there's like close to 200 views on YouTube right now. So yeah, that's what I got for BCCI.
And I will just quickly chime in and say, yes, there's absolutely a need. I get questions about that all the time. Well, not all the time, but often enough that I've, gone to the police department because they used to have shred events, and then there's other resources in the community, but they're really far and few between.
Yeah, and
especially for free shredding.
Yeah, and the police department normally does one, but it was canceled this year because of the pandemic. And then Highlands, just for I don't even have the date, but was specific that it was just for Highland residents. So it wasn't even a city-wide event.
Jonathan, we had a question in the chat asking what's a shred event, like shredding paper?
Yes, shredding paper, confidential documents. The only thing I ever shred is one carbon copy of a check like once a year. So if you have anything like that, maybe. I don't shred a lot, but confidential documents you might not want people to rifle through the trash.
I can't help it, but when you said I don't shred a lot, I just thought about somebody in the gym, and I just had to say it. Sorry.
I don't do that either. Any other questions about the Beaverton Committee for Community Involvement? Last call. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Jonathan. Turning then to Franziska with the city update.
Great, thank you for that. I've got a couple updates for you this month. So the first one is just about election results, and a reminder that obviously election is tomorrow night, and that local up-to-date election results will be available on the county's website, and I'll put that website in the chat. It's a little bit of a long one. And if city results warrant follow-up communications, there will be additional communication sent out. So let's see, combination of remote, virtual, and on-site services has been extended. The city will continue providing a combination of remote, virtual, and on-site services to the public through at least Thursday, December 31st, in response to continued fluctuations in COVID-19 cases. Visit beavertonoregon.gov/coronavirus. And again, I'll put all websites that I reference in the chat for the latest on available services, including housing, business and community resources, building permits and applications, utility billing, and more. Most services are available remotely by phone or online, with programs, events, meetings, and other activities happening virtually. In-person visits for passports are available by appointment, as well as some court and library services with distancing and other safeguards in place. Community members should help limit the spread of the virus and practice statewide requirements, such as to wear a face covering when in indoor public spaces and outdoors when 6 feet of distance isn't maintained. Washing hands often, covering coughs, staying home when sick, knowing your symptoms, and getting a flu shot are also recommended. And for additional information and guidance, visit the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, Oregon Health Authority, Washington County Public Health Division, and 211. Library continues BCL to go. The library continues to operate BCL to go, hold pickup service at both locations while library buildings remain closed. Library card holders can make an appointment or drop in for BCL to go service by walk up both locations and drive up for the main library only. BCL to go appointments can be made at www.beavertonlibrary.org, BCL to go. If you prefer to drop in, please visit beavertonlibrary.org/BCL to go for current hours of operation. The book drops at both the main library and the Murray Shoals branch are open for returns. And in addition to the computer lab at the main libraries, Tuesdays 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and Wednesdays 3 to 7 p.m., the library is offering wireless printing. With wireless printing, you can print to a library printer from your smartphone, laptop, or tablet. No library card is required, and printing is free up to 20 pages. Send print jobs to the library through a web form by email or using the Printer On app. Then come to the library to pick up your print job during computer lab hours, or come to the front doors at the main library with your email address. Staff will use this to identify print and give you the printouts at the library front doors. And visit, and there's a website for computer lab and wireless printing for more information. And last thing, utility bill assistance is available. Utility bill relief for qualified Washington County residents impacted by COVID-19 is still available. Beaverton residents can get easy help paying water, sewer, waste collection, and other utility balances from March 1st through December 30th. Assistance is available in partnership with Washington County, Community Action, and local cities and utilities. Those interested in or needing assistance, even for the first time, are encouraged to apply and take advantage of available funding. Visit www.caowash.org to get started. In addition, housing and emergency rent assistance is ongoing. Nearly $700,000 has already been deployed through partner agencies, with another $300,000 remaining available for low-income renters. For more information, visit beavertonoregon.gov/housing. And Amanda, I'll email all of this over to you. Are there any questions? All right, great. Well, if anybody thinks of a question, I'll be here all night. Feel free to pop it in the chat.
Thank you very much, Franziska. All right, so next agenda item would be approval of the October minutes, which I believe all of the board members received through Amanda's email, and edits were given, and we don't have a quorum, so it has to be tabled until next month, which we shall do. And there is no treasurer at the moment, so we will punt on that until December as well. And speaking of December, I believe that we will also have board officer elections next month as well. So for those in attendance, keep that in mind. Okay, well, in that case, that completes officers' reports, and we now have Leah from Beaverton School District, who is going to tell us about safe routes to school.
Can I jump in real quick? Tom, we had a question come in right there at the very end from Rachel Phillip. How do board elections work? Do you want to give a quick update on that first before we move on?
Yes. So what happens is officers are elected So officers being the chair, vice chair, recorder. BCCI rep is actually an elected position as well. So the treasurer, what am I missing? Am I missing one? Or is it just those 5? 4, 5, yeah. Those are, officers are elected from the board to become a member of the board as opposed to a general member of the, anybody who lives or owns property or operates a business in a neighborhood, or at least in Central Beaverton, is automatically a general member. In principle, we have separate general and board member meetings according to our bylaws, but all of our meetings are general. They're all open to the membership, the general membership. However, when something comes up where an action needs to be taken and a vote needs to be held, only sitting board members are there to vote. And the board can be up to 20 members with a certain proportion of that, where businesses can only be up to a certain proportion of that. I think it's 4 members. I think it's only 20%. We don't currently have any business owners or interests represented on the board. Everyone here is a resident of Central Beaverton. So to get on the board, all you need to do is attend 3 consecutive NAC meetings and then say, hello, I would like to be on the board. And then we will say, welcome. Come on down. And then you'll get your picture on one of the Zoom meetings, as opposed to just being a name. So anyway, I hope that has answered some of your questions, or at least the one question, and then any subsequent questions you may have had. If you have more questions and you really want to get into it, the bylaws for the Central Beaverton Neighborhood Association Committee are available on our webpage. I can actually pull that up and drop it in the chat, because it's always nice to There's our webpage. Anyway, so that's where you can find the agenda, meeting links, and our bylaws. And the bylaws are, tell us how we operate. So anyway, if there are further questions, Rachel or any other panelists, then feel free to chime in, but maybe we'll save those. We'll address them at the end of the meeting during the public comment period. And now we will return to Leah from Beaverton School Districts, who is going to tell us about Safe Routes to School.
Great, thank you. And no worries about the interruption, Kevin. Well, thank you for having me. My name's Leah Biado-Luis. I'm the Beaverton Safe Routes to School Coordinator. And I do have a short PowerPoint to share, so I'm going to try sharing my screen here and hope that everything works. There we go. Oh, uh-oh. I don't want that popping up. Okay, I think everyone can see that. Thumbs up, yeah? Okay, great. So Safe Routes to School is a fully grant-funded program. We are in the 2nd year of a 3-year grant cycle. We get our support from Metro, the Oregon Department of Transportation, and the City of Beaverton. Those funds were enough to hire a full-time coordinator myself, and we do have a part-time assistant coordinator, Linda Feldhen, who's not here tonight with me. So just a brief background on Safe Routes to School. We're a national program with the goal of increasing opportunities for students to safely walk or roll to school. We call our national program framework the 6 E's, which are pictured here. So we include education, engineering, community engagement, evaluation, encouragement, and equity. Our 6E, which can be thought of as an umbrella that guides our program delivery and the sharing of resources. During this challenging time of distance learning and COVID safety protocols, we have shifted our program slightly to still encourage students and families to safely walk and roll, just making those trips throughout their neighborhood instead of just back and forth to school. We all know that more sitting in front of screens can be wearing for all of us, but especially kids. So it's even more important that they have time outdoors to move their bodies. Research shows that being active not only increases student health, but it also increases student achievement, focus, mood, and mental health. While we might be enjoying more time indoors together as a family, going for a walk or roll in the neighborhood increases our opportunities to see friends and neighbors from a distance and feel connected to our communities. Tonight, I want to briefly share how Safe Routes to School is assisting students and families during comprehensive distance learning. I'm going to present a new opportunity for volunteers to lead walk and roll events for their school community during distance learning, and then give you an update on our International Walk and Roll Day results. Since last March, when students started distance learning, we've developed several online resources, activities, and events to continue to encourage students to learn and practice pedestrian and bike safety. We have a new remote resource guide on our website with route ideas, safety information, including videos about things like how to cross the street or properly fit a helmet, and fun activities to do while walking and biking. Additionally, we've recently created a messaging toolkit. This is for schools and parent groups to easily post safety and encouragement tips in their newsletters. And then currently we're working on a new Bricks and Bikes online pedestrian and bicycle safety unit. So when we have in-person learning, we usually push into PE classes to teach a 45-minute class to all elementary students on safe walking and biking. Without that in-person learning time, we're developing these new remote lessons that we're hoping that their classroom teacher or PE teacher can then deliver to students. So there'll be kind of informative videos using Lego type people and teaching tips on safe walking and biking. So this year we're coordinating with schools to try and recruit parent volunteers at each school to assist with virtual walk and roll day each month. It doesn't have to be on Wednesdays, but we do have several schools that have been leading the first Wednesday of the month a virtual event. So it can be as simple as posting the event on social media, encouraging families to go for a walk or roll in their neighborhood. And families have been posting a reply to the post with an emoji or a GIF or even photos of their families out walking and biking together. And coordinators just count how many participants and then relay those results to us. A few schools are coordinating with their curbside book pickup, where once a month kids can walk by their school for their walk and roll Wednesday and pick up a small prize. We have formed a walk and rollers leadership team. We held our first meeting last month. We met with interested volunteers to give them more guidance and ideas for these types of activities. And we always have prizes available for schools to assist them with this kind of monthly event promotion. Finally, International Walk and Roll to Anywhere Day was Wednesday, October 7th, formerly known as Walk and Roll to School Day. This year, we welcomed all community members to participate. We were able to award 3 regional elementary school winners. Sexton Mountain, Finley, and Kinnaman were the 3 elementary school winners, and they received a bundle of active transportation books for their school library. And then additionally, 9 other schools were awarded with a number of pencils and face coverings and tattoos and stickers and things to give out to students. We were able to come up with 100 raffle prize bags filled with things like reflective shoelaces and bike lights and bells and clip-on safety lights. And then we were also able to award 18 new helmets to students. So that's kind of a brief overview of what we are doing right now with distance learning. I'm sure most of you have heard the update that the district did extend distance learning until February for all grades. I know the governor came out with some new health metrics, but that's kind of really recent news. So the district hasn't released any updates regarding those new health metrics. But I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the program or anything I presented. I'll stop sharing my screen too here. I put my contact information and our website in the chat.
And Leah, just a quick question. It's on your website where that guide for families to find the safe routes and the activities?
Yes.
That's what that
So,
is.
yep, on the homepage, there's a remote resource button and it goes to all of those kinds of resources.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Gotcha. So, yeah, that looks fantastic that you're able to do, still be proactive about this program while the student body is actually being actively kept away
Yes.
from that. So that's fantastic. For those of us who are only familiar with the program in name and haven't necessarily looked at some of the other resources, could you give maybe just a quick brief overview about what other types of work your particular program does in terms
Sure.
of day-to-day working with both the students and the school district?
Yep. So in addition to kind of the education lessons where we push into schools, we also coordinate with the county and city on infrastructure improvements to increase the ability for schools to walk and bike. So that usually takes the role of what we call an action plan. So we actually sit down and create a document with a team, which usually includes like a building principal, some parent reps, and then we have a coordination team that consists of school administrators, land use transportation representative from Washington County and City of Beaverton, and then representatives from Beaverton Police Department and the Sheriff's Office. So we meet once a month. And we kind of, they assist with what we call a walk audit, where we go out when we're working with a specific school, we'll go out and actually walk any existing walking routes that are available to students and take note of any hazards or, you know, what the route looks like. We use parent surveys, and we also have student tally information that we take annually. So we analyze that information. And then we do what we call a parking lot audit, where we actually look during arrival and dismissal time and take note of what the parking lot flow looks like and any improvements. So then we sit down as a team and we kind of craft this, this action plan guide, and what it results in are recommendations for both infrastructure improvements and non-infrastructure improvements, which would be more of those encouragement events or maybe posting a map for parents to see to assist with that education part of how to travel safely. So those are kind of the big areas. We do also assist with more of the community-like events that obviously have been canceled. In the spring, we host a number of larger bike rodeos, which are kind of safety fairs for different schools, oftentimes coordinating with the middle and high schoolers to lead a bigger event for all of their feeder schools. So that kind of goes along with the education and encouragement piece. But that one slide I showed at the beginning talking about the 6 E's, those are kind of the different areas that we kind of focus our program on. So hopefully that gives you a better feel for what we do, especially in non-pandemic times.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you very much. So when you like survey the parents and members of the community, what is usually the kind of the major reason why they don't, you know, engage in non-motor transportation?
Yes, so the top 3 Parent concerns are usually speed of traffic along routes to schools, safety of intersections around schools, and sidewalks. You know, some schools have wonderful sidewalks and some are really lacking. So that's, again, something when we form an action plan, we can really advocate for the addition of some of those projects.
Gotcha. How frustrating are the Beaverton School District school boundary areas to work with from your side? Because it looks like, having looked at my own kind of for the first time, it doesn't seem to make any real sense at all about where we feed into based on where we are.
Definitely. I've never been part of the boundary process, and I know they're you know, going through that with the middle schools right now with the boundary readjustment. All I can say without being part of that process is that I know that they are just looking at so many different factors from you know, an equity standpoint and the number standpoint and the transportation standpoint. Unfortunately, you know, I don't really get a seat at that table. I get kind of handed the boundaries, and then I'm told, you know, what can you do to promote walking and biking with what we're giving you. But yeah, I know those meetings get very heated and contentious, and yeah, I don't have a whole lot of information to share on that process.
I'm just curious. So
yes,
thank you very much for the advocacy work that you do to you know, get that out. Are there other questions or comments from panelists or attendees for Leah? No. So you mentioned volunteer opportunities that were upcoming. Is there usually a call for volunteers for your various programs?
Oh, yeah, right now, like I mentioned, we're mostly recruiting for someone at schools to lead those virtual encouragement days. It's kind of all we're doing right now. Once school is in session, we are often recruiting people to lead what we call a walking school bus. So if you're not familiar with what that is, a walking school bus is a group of students who either meet at a designated location before school and have at least 2 adults walking a group of students to school. And some of our schools do this weekly, and some of our schools just have kind of a once a month event. But it's something that we're always trying to promote. As I didn't mention before, but you brought up kind of parent concerns. That would be another big one, is parents who don't have the time and they're working and they don't feel comfortable with their child walking alone to school. This provides just an opportunity for them to get all the great benefits of walking and be in a safe group of students with some adults. So once school starts back up, we'll start recruiting for those walking school bus leaders again. And then when we have more of our big events, we're always looking for volunteers to assist with kind of our bike rodeos and those types of things that we do in the spring.
Cool, thank you very much. Last call for questions for Leah. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming to visit us and to fill us in, and hopefully we'll hear more from you and your program when kids can get back on the road to go to school.
Yes, thank you so much for having
Absolutely.
me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, then, moving on, I believe we are into old business. And as it stands, I believe the only old business would be updates about the various efforts that we're making to source and distribute masks. And I know that that was primarily John, but Kevin, have you gotten any updates from the businesses who've been receiving masks?
So I handed out the rest of the masks that I had last week or 2 weeks ago, to Tan restaurant. They took about the final 20 or so, and they were very excited about it. So thank you for
Nice.
getting those together. Whoever that was that gave us that set. Came from John.
It came from John's people.
Yeah, John's people. So that was really great. I don't believe that there were any other major projects that we had like in the works as a NAC.
No, that's kind of been dominating things for the past 6 months.
Yes.
So, yeah,
If you all know people who have more masks that they're wanting to give away, I'm sure we can give out some more, but that's if you know people.
Isn't John's group still working on creating more of those? It sounded like last time he shared that there was another round of them coming.
I don't remember.
that was my understanding as well, is that this was an ongoing, still
Yeah, it's kind of
project
hard
and effort.
to discuss without him here for the
Right.
Yeah.
So we can. I meant to ask if he had any updates, and unfortunately, it looks like he's probably not going to be joining us this evening. But I can touch base with him and see if they've got another round and if he wants help distributing them, if they do. So if there is any further action from that, from his information, then I can pass that off to Kevin. If you know that there are other businesses that are looking, or Amanda, if you know of any other community sources that are looking, then we can do that. And I believe that is it for old business that we can actually do anything about still. The only other piece being our engagement, increasing our engagement with a big regional meeting, but that's just not going to happen for a while. So,
Do we maybe want to include some time on next month's agenda to maybe come with ideas and brainstorm maybe another project that we can take on or something else? It seems like the map making project is like on its way and moving forward and kind of hit its stride. So maybe to plan some time on next month's agenda for people to maybe take the month to brainstorm ideas, look around for needs that might be in our community that we could help with.
yeah, sure. Because going from next month, which would be elections, and then January is just looking, 2 meetings ahead, then that should really be kind of where we're visioning what we want to do for the year.
Yeah.
And so getting it.
Our regional meetings probably, our big meetings probably not going to happen. Our
not like that. Yeah. But if we do have the opportunity to do something like a shred event in the neighborhood or something, I know that having looked through past public events that they've done is like a dump event where I think they got a dumpster and had it available for people to bring, large items or things that couldn't be otherwise disposed of curbside to do. So something like that, where you're not gathering a whole lot of people, because I think, Jonathan, do you know, did Highland work with Mike Muma in order to get approval for their event?
I want to say yes.
Okay, I would assume that they did in order for the grant to go through. But yeah.
I can also jump in and say that yes, it was. It wasn't Mike Muma. It was actually Renata Garrison, who is the program coordinator. But yeah, they have a really rock solid COVID plan for the shred event that Miles actually wants to use as a template for all sorts of other COVID potential activities, because it was that good.
Cool.
So yeah, definitely has got a gold star from the emergency management folks as meeting all the criteria they would hope to see with that.
Yeah, that was just to keep in mind that probably whatever plan we came up with would need to, if it's going to be something that is sanctioned by the city, is going to have to go through that vetting process. And it's nice to know that there's that there's a kind of a working template for that, and
Yeah,
already
absolutely.
it'll facilitate a lot of
email
things.
that over to you, Thom, so that
Sure, yeah.
I'll email it to the board actually, so that you all can look at that.
Yeah, you might even, I know there's a NAC resources page. It might even be worth just posting.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. I'll mention that to Miles.
Totally.
I don't even think that he had thought about that yet, since that was all very recent.
Sure.
That got created, but that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, because well, you guys aren't busy and you've got so much free time, but.
Yes. But yeah, no, I'll nudge him and then I'll email you all when that's.
Yeah, it would still be great to see it, just because he's busy. So.
For sure. There is a comment there from Rachel. Yes. That she would love to have a dump event, especially if it includes accepting hard to recycle items that can be disposed of safely. Yes, that is a great idea. If that was something that you all wanted to do, I could connect you with folks in our recycling department. Some of you may remember that we used to do an annual recycling day event in Beaverton back in the old Westgate lot before it became all of the exciting things that it is now next to City Hall. But yeah, specifically for all of those hard to recycle items and toxic paints and those kinds of things. So, but yeah, I could definitely connect you to other staff members that may, have some ideas about that. I don't know what all the particularities are of that, but I know that there are obviously, Metro and other places where those things can ultimately be taken.
Yeah, but there's some hoops to jump through, and sometimes there's a cost even for doing things like paint. Yes, Amanda.
I have connections to a nonprofit in Portland that I did some work with, where what they do is they actually go to the transfer station and pull things out that could still be used, and they fix them up, they clean them up. Sometimes they become art, like they're an artist organization, but also just a reuse organization. So I don't know how that would work in partnership with the city, but perhaps if something like this did happen, that they could be there to intercept anything from going directly to the dump. And then they sell it as a nonprofit in order to help keep continuing to fund reuse and recycling programs and things like that. So potentially there could be room for people dropping off things, and then instead of it going into a dumpster, it getting to go and have another life.
Sure. Yeah, and something like that, there's definitely enough time. I mean, we wouldn't want to do something like a dump event during the winter or even potentially spring, where you can do that with a shred event, because they just pull up a big box truck that has a shredder in it. Everybody's covered anyway. So there would be plenty of time to work on that, and potentially even both of these things. But good. So I'll go ahead and jot those as potential ideas, either hosting our own shred event for maybe the near, as a possibility for me, or as things to further discuss. The dump event is good. And then if other, I tell you what, we'll just go ahead and roll into visitor comments and announcements, and I will allow John and Rachel both to talk. And so if you have anything that you'd like to share, or ideas for the neighborhood, or ideas that, you would like the neighborhood association to help implement, then the floor is open. Rachel?
Hey, yeah, this is Rachel.
Hello.
Hey, so I know about this meeting because I live next to John and Quinn. But I was just curious. What the NAC does to let people know about what happens in this meeting, or how to attend this meeting, or things like that. I moved to Beaverton I think 2 years ago, and the only reason I know about it is because it's through them. So I was just curious what kind of outreach the NAC does.
So, and I mean, Franziska can speak to this more from a formal what the city of Beaverton does, but I mean, I found out about it because I moved to the area and I started looking for things. And the main reason I was looking for how to engage with things is because I knew there was going to be a great big city infrastructure project that I was going to be affected by. So I wanted to jump in early, and I was just here a couple of years, moved in a couple of years ago as well. And other than that, there's a Facebook page. There's an email list that usually you go to a meeting and you get on that, or you pretty much interact with the Office of Neighborhood, the neighborhood office at all, and you're on that email list, I believe. And then other than that, it's what the Your City mailer, which goes out to all households, and other various flyers. And then other than that, I believe it is the NAC is up to it's up to each NAC to be able to do their own promotion. We have a lot of support from the city, but they are pretty hands-off, and they let people do as much or as little as they feel necessary in their neighborhoods. I know that Central we were working on trying to get a big community engagement event happening, and then we got hit just like everybody else, kind of blindsided by the public health crisis. So now we're kind of scrambling we were hoping to use things like making and distributing masks as a way to get, as a project to help establish the NAC in people's minds, especially in this case. I think we were really trying to couch that towards businesses in the downtown core, for knowing that, hey, we're helping that, but you can also remind me what our intentions were there. But yeah, so we have access to a lot of the city resources, printing, bulk mailing, and some other things like that where we can use it. This NAC hasn't actually taken advantage of that in the past, I think, probably 18 months or maybe a little bit more. But Kevin, look like you have something to add.
Yeah, I heard about it from word of mouth. My old board chair said, Kevin, you really need to go to the Central Beaverton NAC meetings. And I said, cool, I will do that. So I think word of mouth is a big way to do it. But then also, I know the NAC sometimes has events at community, or has booths at community events, which is probably a better way to reach people who we might not be connected with as direct neighbors. But this is something that we've talked about over the past several months, with Zoom being the primary mode of communication together. And it was something we were really ramping up to start focusing on more back January, February, March of this year, saying, okay, we need better representation of Central Beaverton here at these meetings. We'd get really good representation and feedback and input at interesting projects and controversial projects. So like those meetings could have 30 or so people, which was pretty good. We could probably do even better, but just a small sample of my perspective there.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, I definitely understand that the pandemic would definitely hinder outreach. I was just curious, just because I don't know. I only heard about it because of who I live next to.
Sure, and I mean, word of mouth is kind of that. I tell everybody who will listen that I work with the neighborhood association, and what's going on with them, and what do they think about this, that, and the other project that's happening in the neighborhood or the downtown or whatever. And some people will engage you with that, and they'll really interested, and you'll tell them when the meeting is, and you'll be like, hey, will we see you there? And then you just see them on the street the next time. So it's kind of hard to get the public engaged regularly. So when we see people who are interested, like Rachel Phillip, then we encourage them to come back to more meetings, and especially when they ask things about what are these board elections like, then, well, we'll look forward to seeing you in December. That's all I'm saying. Oh, sorry, Franziska, did you have something to add from the city side?
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, Kevin and Thom really covered a lot of those kind of traditional bases of how we do outreach and marketing. The only thing I was going to add too is in addition to the Your City, so I actually oversee the boards and commissions recruitment, of which we have a couple of board and commission members actually part of the SNAC. And so every year when we do recruitment for that, we do one side that is for boards and commissions recruitment, and then the other side is for neighborhood association committees. There's 11 within the city of Beaverton. Central Beaverton is one of them. So we certainly do, and that postcard gets sent just like the Your City to every single household in the city of Beaverton. But what I was going to say is if you have any ideas, we are always open and interested in how do we get the word out to let folks know that not only are they, you know, part of a neighborhood association by the very nature of them living or working in that neighborhood, but how they can engage with the NAC and also the opportunities that are available. I mean, you heard folks talking about matching grant applications and events and other programs and projects, and so we really see the NACs as a really integral part of community building and community, you know, improvement through all sorts of wonderful projects that they come up with, whether it's reading programs or, you know, plantings, annual plantings, or I mean, any number of things that the neighborhoods do that really improve their community. So if you have ideas for how to get the word out, definitely let us know. I can also put my email in the chat. My colleague, Miles Glowacki, he's the one that really oversees all of the neighborhoods themselves. But anyway, super glad to have you here. Thanks for all of your wonderful questions and for being so engaging.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. Are there anybody have any comments or potential new business or announcements?
I will add one thing about the First Street Dining Commons space. It is having walls and more tents added on Wednesday with lighting and heaters, so it'll be more comfortable for the wintertime. The Beaverton Downtown Association just put a lot more planters out there this weekend, and we have collected a lot of mural designs for a couple of walls there. So we're going to be working with the Arts Commission to get those approved for murals over the next few weeks. And we're trying to get approval for sidewalk and street paint of some sort. That's proving a little difficult, but I still have hopes.
What kind, like decorative paint or like traffic flow paint?
Like artsy, decorative, fun, interactive paint.
Gotcha. I didn't know if are you gonna accidentally stripe in a couple of new crosswalks as art?
You know, I would love that.
This new bike lane that just appeared overnight. How did that get there?
I don't know.
Well, that is super exciting. So thanks for letting me know that, Kevin.
Cool. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure that most of the attendees have been down to the First Street Dining Commons recently. You should go again. I was really impressed. We dropped off our ballots on, I think, Friday night, and then took a further roll through, and it was nice to see that even on a a cool autumn night, it was really bumping down there, and the businesses keep expanding their outdoor amenities, and it's maybe there was all this business still already going on in there, but the health situation, at least, that really brings it out onto the street to showcase it, which is cool. So yeah, hopefully it's the kind of thing that we can continue to encourage after we don't have to be doing this. Because I mean, I don't know, you can tell me your opinions, but you go down there now, and with just all the people sitting out, it really looks like an attractive place to go, and that it's a compelling thing that you want to go back to.
And I'll add, even with people there, I feel very safe. Like the tables are wide, they're spaced apart. Like it feels comfortable.
Yeah, 90% of just even the people on the sidewalk are wearing masks, even if they're just going to pick up something, so to go order from someplace. So, yeah, I think it's I really so Kevin, applause my applause to you and your work with the downtown the Beaverton downtown and encouraging coordinating all the businesses, because that has really been I think it's exceeded its intentions. So it's really exciting. That's all.
Cool.
All right. Well, enough of that glad handing. Are there any other further comments or announcements for this month? Anyone? Okay. In that case, we are adjourned. We'll see you all on December 7th.